Whiskey 9 Yankee, 7 November Golf, over.
Whiskey 9 or go.
Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo.
Negative Alpha Bravo.
And this is 7 November Golf, Roger. Request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out.
November 5,
And 8 Clause, 7 November, say again.
Roger, I said can be back 30 minutes before I come up on the
7 November, go.
I copied a while ago, one Charlie transmission that my thing used, November Golf, 1 Charlie Echo.
And 8 5, this is 7 November, Charlie.
8 5 right now.
Now 1 Charlie, 7 November, go.
This is 1 Charlie, welcome to your lines. You're Brandon 158 at the box price on 1200 between teams and local. Also request 3 units take inbound Nexus to see if we can try to get Whiskey 9 and 8 for pause into the playground.
And this is 7 November, Roger, stand by.
Got that.
Got it? Alright. And all units, this is 7 November Golf. My unit Alpha, Echo, X-ray Alpha, Alpha in there.
One Charlie, Alpha Bravo.
Yeah, I never took a dip. I forgot to take a dip.
Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9 Yankee, 7 November Golf, over.
This is Whiskey 9 or go.
Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo.
Hey, welcome to another live stream here in the CivDiv. You ask me your VA questions, I give you answers. It's late on a Friday night. I guess it's not late. It's 6 Eastern here on the East Coast. But I'm a little bored, so we're going to do some live streaming. All right, I'll give it a second and let questions roll on in. All right, good evening. How's it going? Thank you for being a member. Appreciate that. Texas is here. All right, howdy. While people are rolling in, what I do want to share with you, what I should have totally shared my screen already, is not that one. It's this screen. Okay. I see that super chat here. Let me just queue this up, and then we will just go straight into that. VA news. Probably start off strong with some top stories that came out. And while veterans ask their questions in the chat, let that build up for a second. And the story's not too hot. All right. Anyways, let's start with the super chat first. DK Guns, thank you. You always donate. You remember. You're awesome. Okay. Thank you very much. So if I had a Nexus letter and DBQ done for sleep apnea from a doctor over 100 miles, that's a red flag. Had ACE exam with VA2. Yeah, so if you complete, or if not complete, if you turn in a Nexus letter and DBQ with your claim, and you are scheduled an exam, an ACE as well, the VA essentially deemed your private evidence as insufficient, right? Or an authenticity error, right? They won't come out and say fraud. But it's the indication, right? And the 100 miles plus is one indicator, and there's a few indicators coupled with that and on their own, and how the VA has interpreted the OIG report from January of 2024. It essentially allows the VA to rubber stamp legitimate DBQs, right? And we know, like, whenever I asked Raider HQ this while he was still working there, if that was a thing, and he said, yeah, absolutely it is. It's the safest thing to do. You know, if you're a claims processor, the safest thing to do is to rubber stamp that claim, which is, I mean, it's objectively wrong. But that is where the VA is at now. That's why I really made those two suggestions. Like, either allow or force, not even allow, force VHA providers to complete DBQ forms, which are VA forms, or just take away public-facing DBQs altogether. Like, I don't, if you're going to rubber stamp veterans' evidence, which is legitimate evidence, just take it down. Like, why is the VA playing games right now, essentially? Anyways, but yes, if you had an exam and you submitted private DBQ, private Nexus, and the VA ordered you an exam, they essentially took your DBQ and your Nexus, and they didn't even use it as toilet paper. They just went straight to the trash. So appeals are where you'll see private DBQs, private Nexus letters really come in clutch. I wouldn't recommend them for initial claims. With the small little note there are some secondaries, I think, that would warrant a Nexus letter, right? For instance, like mental health secondary to chronic pain. That would be a solid one to get a Nexus for on your first time filing that claim. But appeals, for sure, right? Especially if you're not looking at direct. Anyways, I'm going to allow questions to roll on in here. All right, it's a Friday night. I don't expect a huge viewing. So if you have a question, tonight's the night to get it in, right? Only the nerds are on the internet on Friday night. So thank you for being here. I'm also a nerd myself. I spent all day getting a Lord of the Rings birthday party set up. And I'm probably going to make, it's not veteran related, but I'm going to make a YouTube short about it tomorrow because I put in so much work. Anyways, we have a new report. Just came out February 5th. All right. VA releases annual veteran suicide prevention report updated with 2023 data. It's not good. All right. Just straight up, it's not good. Trigger warning. If you fall into this category, you might not want to watch this. All right. If you can handle it, then here we go. The Department of Veteran Affairs today released the National Veteran Suicide Prevention Annual Report. I will probably do another video really diving into the report itself, not just the press release here, which analyzes veteran suicide from 01 to 23, the most recent year for which data is available. Okay. So it is 2026 right now. 2 to 3 year gap. Just keep that in mind. So it's probably worse. The report shows there were 6,398 suicides among veterans in 2023, down from 6,442 in 22. The average number of veteran suicides per day fell slightly to 17.5 in 23 from 17.6 in 22. Average per day. That's 17.5 veterans are unaliving themselves. Other key findings from the report include 61% of veterans who died by suicide in 23 were not receiving VA healthcare in the last year of their life. The suicide rate per 100,000 veterans rose for both male and female veterans in 23. For women, the rate rose from 13.7 to 13.9, and for men, it rose from 37.3 to 37.8. So relatively speaking, it got worse. Suicide rates are elevated for veterans aged 18 to 34 and those with certain risk characteristics, including homelessness, health problems, and pain. How many veterans have health problems and pain? Now, this right here, I'm 33. It is absolutely referring to what I would call the late post 9/11 GWAT era, which is like your 2010. You joined the service in 2010 and up. I mean, I got some health problems and pain. I'll tell you that. Among veterans who died by suicide from 21 to 23, and those deaths were reported by VA suicide prevention teams, the most frequently identified risk factor was pain. Just talked about this secondary, about mental health, secondary to chronic pain. Prime example. Suicide prevention is VA's top clinical priority, and all VA healthcare facilities provide veterans same-day emergency mental healthcare access if they need it. Under President Trump and Secretary Collins, VA is conducting a review of its suicide prevention programs to better measure their impact, expand on efforts that are delivering results, and refine programs that need improvement. Really quick, we got a super chat here that I'm going to answer and then get back to this article. All right. My derm is prior VA. I'm your dermatologist, like for your skin. And will VA write DBQ and IMO for not proposals, psoriasis, burn pit, JP8? Do I submit everything without it? I have one service sick call for rash and 2 post-deployment reports for skin issues. I would assume you have a current diagnosis. All right, and looking at an exposure claim, Tara. And depending on what we're talking about here, if it falls into the CMI, you need that 6-month chronicity. But assuming you have the chronic current diagnosis and that is linked to your exposure, submit the claim. I think sometimes we overcomplicate it. Just submit the claim. Along with that claim, you need to explain your exposure, not just within a statement to the rater who's going to get that claim eventually, but be able to articulate your exposure to the CMP examiner. The CMP examiner has no idea what you were exposed to or what that life is like. All right. So be prepared to explain your exposure. And will the VA write a DBQ and medical opinion? The answer, unfortunately, is probably not. That's a deeper discussion than what I want to hit right now, but the answer is probably not. You can ask, all right? But if you have a provider that's willing, then sure, go ahead and do that, especially if it's free. Go ahead and do it, submit that with your claim. But overall, just looking at this comment, you have a decent claim, right? You have documented exposure. You have skin issues reported from service post-deployment. That right there in itself, we're talking direct, not even exposure. This is a very, very strong claim. Just submit the claim. All right. But looking at this, you have a decent claim, man. Okay. Let me finish this article here, and then we will get back to answering questions. This approach has already resulted in several improvements in the first year of the Trump admin, including many aimed at helping veterans at risk of suicide. Since January 25, VA has conducted a new outreach campaign that has led more than 33,000 unenrolled veterans to sign up for VA healthcare. VA team with several large civilian healthcare providers in February 25 to launch the Veterans Interoperability Pledge to identify at-risk veterans and help them get the care they've earned at VA. This effort has helped the VA identify and contact 140,000 at-risk veterans, 40% of whom had not recently been to VA. This part is key, remember, because we have that lack of relationship between the veteran and the VA. In May 25, the Department of War signed a memorandum of understanding committing both agencies to improving the transition process. Sure, the signing a memorandum is nothing. I personally want to know, like, what action, like, what does that mean? What actions are being taken? You know, I can sign a memorandum all day. Who cares? Like, how many page 11s are you going to give me? Who cares? You know, if nothing's done, if nothing's actually actionable, nothing gets done. Okay. For the first time in history, VA is now tracking how effective its staff and partners are at getting veterans into VA care, so we can see what's working and where we need to improve. In the meantime, this is long. All right. In the meantime, VA is pursuing a host of other suicide prevention efforts across the country. FY25, VA offered 1.3 million calls, chats, and texts to veterans in need through the Veteran Crisis Line. VA continues to expand suicide prevention training. All right. In 2018, Trump admin launched Risk ID. In calendar year 25, VA completed more than risk screenings. Okay. VA administers the Staff Sergeant Parker Gordon Fox Suicide Prevention Grants Program. Looking at organizations, referrals. In May, we'll have to look at that a little deeper. In November, VA announced it housed the largest number of homeless veterans in 7 years. All right. Veteran suicide has been a scourge on our nation for far too long, says VA Secretary Doug Collins. Most veterans who die by suicide were not in recent VA care, so making it easier for those who have worn the uniform to access VA benefits they have earned is key. Under President Trump, we are totally revamping the department's approach to suicide prevention with new leadership, a fresh focus on reaching those who need our help, and for the first time in VA history, a serious effort to track the efficacy of the hundreds of millions the department spends per year in this area to ensure we have real solutions, not just rhetoric. Anytime I see these now, my dang it, what is going on here? Of course, I would just absolutely butcher what's happening. Anytime I see these here, it makes me think of AI. Anyways, I think the VA has a impossible problem to solve. Veteran homelessness and veteran suicide, I think, are impossible to solve. In my humble opinion, is veterans need community. I would recommend going to your local church, even especially if you do not believe. Christian church, I should mind you. When I say Christian church, I mean not Mormon. Okay. A Christian church, even if you don't believe, join a life group, meet at someone's house once a week, you have dinner, you go through whatever it is they're going to go through, and I'm telling you that community bond is very powerful. And it's my opinion that veterans are missing that community bond. No amount of money is going to cure veteran suicide. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Okay. All right. Let's get back to some questions here. Here we go. All right. Mage Toad. Thank you for being a member. Can I 0995, which is a supplemental, a IU denial? Yes, you can. Only stated low back pain. Now that I'm 100% PTSD, feels iffy to claim that back pay this way. Thanks. Okay. So you are looking at, here's my honest truth. Okay. You're 100%. And you're looking at effective dates here. Supplemental claims not really the right route you would go if you wanted to attack this, which I would probably recommend against, but that's me. I don't know the circumstances of your situation. All right. If you were to go against it, I would only do so with an accredited attorney. That's it. Right. Because you've made it. You're at that 100% mark. And if you want back pay that bad, go with an accredited attorney. If not, let it be. All right. Because when a reviewer has your claim, they can pretty much do, they can do whatever they want. All right. So I'm very cautious about this. You are 100%. I don't want to tell you don't go after your back pay, but my recommendation is to seek an accredited attorney and see if you even have a case to begin with. All right. Framby Franco. I had an ACE exam 2 weeks ago. I was driving during the call, but the doctor let me submit what I had in my notes to him via text. So you think that will hurt me? No, I don't think that will hurt you. I'm actually surprised. Generally speaking, that's probably a good CMP examiner. You know, and they wanted your voice to be heard prior to making that opinion. So it's a good sign. It doesn't mean slam dunk. It doesn't mean any of that. It was actual issue someone was texting me about. It's resolved now. But yeah, it's a good sign, right? By hurt me, I mean my claim. It was for migraines and IBS secondary to my mental health. No, I'm curious as to if you described your symptoms in frequency and severity. When you look at things that need a migraine log, okay, or a symptom log is what I would call it. Migraines and IBS come up as that. By the way, VeteranAI for free on their free tier, by the way. VeteranAI just released a symptom tracker, right? And this is a prime example as to why you would want a VeteranAI account to track your symptoms for this exact thing. So, VeteranAI.co. Let me do that. VeteranAI.co. Yes, I have a partnership with them. Yes, I have partial ownership of that. This year will be the first year that I am have a marketing agreement with VeteranAI. All right, how are rubber stamped claims the fault of the veteran regarding fraud? Well, I think you're putting two things together, and I will explain. I'll separate them and then explain what you're really asking. So, rubber stamping, okay, is how the VA is interpreting a VA OIG report from 2024 with the indications of fraud. I assume you saw my most recent fraud video. It's that exact OIG report, all right? That's rubber stamping. Now, the veteran on the fraud side of the house. So it doesn't mean that if you submitted a private DBQ and a private Nexus, the VA thinks you committed fraud. That's not what it means. What it means is there's a sufficiency error. It's insufficient, right? It's inauthentic. The VA is not going to use the word fraud, right? Because fraud means something. And so therefore they kick your claim to a CMP exam. Then you attend your CMP exam. So that's not fraud. Now, that's one thing. Okay, let's get to the fraud side of the house. With this new tool, right, that's coming out this fiscal year, which is in the next few months, by the way, about 8 months left in the FY, the VA is going to examine private DBQs going back to 2010. And what really sucks is if you have let me just tell you who I'm talking to here. If you use a claim company who's probably in bed with a Nexus letter company, meaning they're combined, right? Two examples of this is VA Claims Insider. There's a personal relationship between them, and there's a personal and business relationship between them and whoever it is that they use for Nexus letters. That's an example. Another example is Veterans Guardian and that psychologist out of North Carolina that they used like 5-6 years ago. Okay. That's an example. There's more. That's an example. So let's say that you went through one of them, you used one of their DBQs. Okay. That doesn't mean fraud. It's 100 plus miles away. All right. So now the VA, this tool is like checking boxes. Okay. There's one indication of fraud. The veteran refused to go to their CMP exam. Okay, that's two indications of fraud. And then all of a sudden, one indication by itself doesn't equate to much. But you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 indications of fraud. Now the tool is going to be like, you know what? This is a problem case. The VA is going to look at it and say, okay, here's the problem case. We're going to refer this to the VA OIG, and the VA OIG is going to investigate. And so the biggest question is, let's just hypothetically say a veteran falls into that category, which they do. The question now becomes, who's on the hook for fraud? Is it both or one or the other, right? Is it the provider? Is it the claim company, that relationship? Is it the veteran? Second, how do you prove that the claim company even assisted the veteran's claim to begin with, right? Because they're not accredited, like there's no ties to that claim. So these are questions that the VA OIG is going to investigate. And if you're watching this and you, as I talk, you're like, man, I did use a company. Oh, I did use their CMP exam or their examiner. Oh, I did not. I refused to go to my CMP exam because that's what they told me to do. If that's you, I want to be clear. You are who I am talking to. All right. I'm not saying you committed fraud. What I'm saying is that video is directed at you. If you went to a CMP exam, and that's not who I'm talking about. Okay. And when I say I'm talking about, I'm really saying, I'm just reiterating what the VA said. So, anyways, so I hope that, you know, if you fall, like if you did a private DBQ and you went to a CMP exam, that this is clearly not about that group. This is about, I believe, those who have multiple indications of fraud. And I think it's going to be a party. I can say the VA is not going to let it slide. That I do know, right? They wouldn't be in development of this tool if that was the case. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything here, which I totally did. JSMC, I missed that one. I apologize, but thank you very much. Thank you for being a member as well. I don't see a question from you, though. Just want to make sure. Okay. All right. U.S. Army Grunt says, hello, sir. Hope you and your family had a great day. Hey, we did. I put up some party decorations. My daughter's turning 2. I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, and so I named her party the Two Towers. More to follow tomorrow because I'm going to share with the world the work that I did today. My back hurts. Will you be my Valentine? I will, the Mini Mac. All right, I will. You got to give me $20 though. All right. I don't know if that counts as prostitution. If it does, then ignore what I said. But if it doesn't, I will be your Valentine for $20. Or better yet, gifted memberships. That's even better because at least it helps other people. CB, thank you very much. Member for 20 months. That's a long-time fan. All right. Long-time fan of the channel. Long-time member. Supporter, I should say. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. My kids appreciate that. All right, I've been trying for years to get my chronic neck pain and migraines, headaches. I only have cervical spine rating. What do I do? I'm having 15+1 all in day. Yeah, so I want to know. So this is an easy claim. Generally speaking, it's an easy claim. If you have a cervical disability that is connected, all right, and those are leading to your migraine headaches, that is a generally easy claim. Here's what you need to do. First, get a diagnosis of migraine headaches. No diagnosis, no claim. Second, and these happen simultaneously, as you're talking to your healthcare provider, all right, you say, hey, my neck hurts a lot all the time. I have whatever your diagnosis in your neck is, okay? I have this. And it really, really, I get migraines, headaches, whatever your symptoms are. You know, I get them all the time. I think it stems from my neck. Blah, 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 blah. And that happens at the same time. And there you go. That's your secondary claim. Now, healthcare is important. So as you're talking about your migraines, and you know I'm going to do it, you can ask about GammaCore. This is a treatment for migraines. Non-vagus nerve stimulator, non-invasive. All right. Beautiful. I use this twice in the morning, twice in the evening. There's medications you can be on. It sounds like you need to be on a rescue medication and probably a preventative. You have 15+ migraines. That sounds like a preventative, right? So you're going to have this treatment plan, and all of that is evidence. This right here, evidence. You should also know there's a paid partnership I have with GammaCore, but I'm prescribed this by the VA. I have 2 of them. One's here, one's upstairs in my bedroom. I actually use it for my healthcare. So I'm a big fan of GammaCore because it doesn't put you to sleep. So that's what you need to do. All right. Diagnosis. Talk about your migraines in relation to your cervical spine, and treatment plan. Also, probably some radiculopathy. If you're, while you're at it, in your arms, or not just radiculopathy, nerve damage from your cervical spine into your arms. Hello, great people. What's up? How's it going? Yeah, no worries. Same. Looking at qualifying criteria for R1. Will these be sufficient for R1? Will meet SMCL X3. So this one's difficult because we're talking about bumps. And then we just had that court case settle, or not settle. I forgot what it's called. I did a video on it not that long ago. Long story short, I would probably lawyer up. All right, I would probably, one, you're at 100%. That's important. You're at a higher SMC rate than most. And once you hit that R1, 2, T scale, that is when things begin to get complicated, especially when we're talking about half steps here or half bumps. Robert, the security wizard, hilarious name. All right, I'm going to do a poll here on the desktop version. What am I drinking? All right. Polls up. There we go. Okay. Make sure I didn't miss anyone else. Did I? No, I didn't. Okay. All right. I got approved for 30% for vertigo secondary to tinnitus last week. Now I got a letter for a CMP exam today. Why would they schedule after the approval? The number one thing that comes to my mind is vertigo secondary gets roped in with the primary, okay, which really sucks. It's kind of like insomnia. If you have a lower spine issue in that now you claim insomnia, you won't get a mental health rating. It'll just say, lumbar strain with insomnia, 20%. Vertigo secondary falls within the primary, which really sucks. Okay. And I'm curious if there is like best case scenario. I'm wondering if there's a direct service connection there, because that would be beautiful for you. That's my first thought, right? But without looking at your case, it's difficult to assess that. But if I had to put money on it, your vertigo rating going bye-bye, okay? Unless you can show direct service connection. When vertigo is secondary, it gets roped in with that claim there. There's an M21 TAC1 code here. Raider HQ just popped in. I'm sure he could rattle it off, but it is in the M21 with vertigo secondary. Same thing with insomnia secondary. So it doesn't look good. Just, don't shoot the messenger. But I'm hoping for direct service connection, which very well could be possible. Mage Toad. And we love you. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. I wonder how many of these were just denied for a claim. I don't know what you're talking about. The elevation in veterans committing suicide at 18 years old is very troubling. It is. Absolutely. Well, think about it. If the veteran is 18, that tells me that something traumatic happened to where they didn't fulfill their contract, their full contract. Maybe they got separated. I'm trying not to say boot camp dropouts, because that will spark a different conversation, because these dudes and gals are unaliving themselves. So it kind of, in a really sad way, it kind of makes sense to see 18-year-olds on that list. Yeah. In that Vertigo question, you can see Raider HQ just popped it down there. So that's why Raider HQ is Raider HQ. He has the ability to do that. Okay. How to go about filing MST without any service treatment records? Well, I'll tell you this. Let's say you had absolutely zip, zilch, nada, nothing. Would I recommend you still file it? Yes, I would, personally. Assuming you have a PTSD diagnosis, right? A PTSD due to MST. Now, I will tell you someone that I helped, which I was very uncomfortable with. This was whenever like I first started YouTube. Had a female Marine reach out, and I know the inner workings of the Marine Corps, especially when it comes to that E3 and below, Lance Corporal Underground, as we would call it. Anyways, she had nothing. Absolutely nothing. The only thing that she had was, outside of her diagnosis, she had a fit rep. The Marine Corps, or not a fit rep, because she was a Lance. She had pros and cons, right? They do them annually, sometimes more than once, but you don't need to worry about that. Anyways, per the data for incident, there was a correlation with her performance going down big time. All right, big time. And that was enough for me to be like, listen, you have the diagnosis, you have something in there. It's a little creative evidence, if you will, but you have something. I would submit the claim. All right. One thing that I have learned, and I've helped personally, not just like evidence-based VA claims. I'm talking about me. I've helped at least 1,000 veterans, like one-on-one minimum, over the last like 3.5 years. Dang, almost 4 now. Wow. But rarely do veterans even know what's in their service treatment records, and myself included in that. You know, there's evidence in your STRs that you may be completely unaware of because you forgot or whatever. I would just submit the claim, assuming you have the diagnosis. That would, especially for MST, that's what I would do. One of the very few claims I would recommend to submit just with the diagnosis. Yeah, sorry you were dealing with that. Yes, several years ago, going to derm for the past 20 years. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, you're fine. Sure, go for it. Hello, thank you for being a member. Solaris. Yep, thank you all. I don't always read before I put it up. Let me see if I can delete this dude. Oh, YouTube moderator. Okay, YouTube already got rid of it. I just pulled it up because I'm an idiot. All right. Whoops. That's VeteranAI. When that new AI program related to screening private DBQs comes out, fraud will be an actual concern. Yes, it absolutely will. Something that surprised me because I was watching the hearing. I wasn't watching it live, but I was watching it for the first time while I was live. When the VA opposed the fraud bill, I was like, that's weird. You know, it was very, very strange. And then once the VA explained their opposition to the bill, I was like, oh, wow, this is a big deal. Like, this is real. This is happening. And it's going to happen within this fiscal year. I think it's long overdue, to be honest with you. And we have a lawsuit with Veterans Guardian. This is all alleged. We do not convict via public opinion. So don't make your judgment just yet. Where DBQ fraud allegedly occurred, and the evidence, is presented in a manner that doesn't look too hot for the defendants. So we'll see. How can I find veteran-friendly doctor near me? I assume you mean in reference to Nexus letters and DBQs. To be honest with you, let me tell you this, and this is probably going to hurt me, okay? But I'm going to tell you anyways. Do I think veterans should submit a Nexus letter and a private DBQ with their claim? 99% of the time, that answer is going to be no. All right. I can tell you my first initial criteria. Like, if you don't check these blocks, I'm going to recommend you don't. If it's an initial claim, right? There's some caveats there. Initial claims, or why can't I think about it? Let me switch that, because now I sound like a big old dummy. When would I use a Nexus letter and private DBQ? When it is an appeal, right? So not initial claims. That's kind of where my brain got stuck. I would probably recommend one if you are in an appeal, like a supplemental claims, to be specific. Obviously, an HLR wouldn't do you any good. A supplemental claim, and then a small little caveat on the initial claims is if it is what I would define as a difficult secondary, all right? So like mental health secondary to chronic pain, that's a good one. And then another little tagline, these are like things that I would want you to check off, is would this secondary raise my overall rating? If that's the case, then I feel comfortable saying, you know what? If you have the means, then go for it. But there's no way you're on an initial claim that I would recommend. I mean, there's almost never a time for an initial claim that I would recommend a private DBQ and a Nexus. I guess I'm trying to think of like every scenario. The only way is like, let's say you're 91% and it's a mental health secondary to chronic pain. Mental health is that big ticket item, right? And that 30-50% would push you to 100% PNT. I think it's justifiable within like that little niche scenario. But for the most part, if you're on an initial claim, especially if we're talking about direct, don't get a Nexus letter. Okay, that's coming from me, a guy who makes money off of you getting Nexus letters. All right, so I hope you take that as genuine as it can possibly be, and I mean that. All right. And on the flip side, if you are fighting an appeal, a Nexus letter is not the answer. You need to say, hey, why was I denied? Answer that, and then the question now becomes, would a private DBQ, would an independent medical opinion combat the reason for denial? And if the answer is yes, then I would feel comfortable recommending that as an option to you, right? And so there you go. Cat's out of the bag there. If that does not make sense, let me know, because that's probably the most important thing you're going to hear in this live stream. All right. All right. So if you get, I'm sorry. I want to go back to this question here. So it depends, man. There's no way I don't even know where you are. I can't recommend anyone that's near you. I assume you need like an in-person DBQ for like a spine or something. You need them to touch you. There's no way I could recommend that. So if you got your VA this only from the VA, you were good. I don't know what you're talking about. VA disability. If you got your VA, okay, this is what you mean to say. Okay, I'm gonna translate your words here. I think you're saying if I got my service connection through a VA contracted CMP exam. Am I good? Yes, you're good. That's not, the VA was strictly talking about those who submitted private DBQs. Okay. So even if you submitted a private DBQ and you went to a CMP exam, you're still good. Okay. They're going to still investigate these DBQs to look at providers and start connecting the dots, but you're still good. Now, if you submitted a private DBQ, there's multiple indications of fraud, you refused to go to your CMP exam, I think you're in that bucket of, if you're hearing that and you're like, man, I did all of those things. I'm not saying you committed fraud. All I'm saying is it does not look good for you. All right. And I hope my description, you're able to be like, oh, I'm in the good bucket. And if you're in the bad bucket, my honest comment is you deserve to be there. It's your bed. You made the bed. Now you got to lay in it. And if you did not commit fraud, you better get your butt to the doctor. Actually, you should stop this stream and call the VA. That's what you should do. Or send a secure message to your healthcare team. Because you're not going to have any sympathy from me whatsoever if a veteran is convicted of fraud. You're not going to get zero sympathy. All right. Anyways, try not to rant too much here. Currently have cervical strain with radiculopathy. Was never claimed. Is it better to do supplemental for RUE or submit new secondary claim to current disability? I don't know what RUE is. Okay. Is that common knowledge? RUE, not from Hunger Games. That's what Google tells me to do. RUE VA disability. I see nothing. Oh, left upper, right upper extremity. Okay, left upper extremity, right upper extremity. I've never seen that acronym before. My bad. Hey, if you have a diagnosis of right upper extremity, I would submit the claim. Now, there is potential here to reach back to an error. Depending on what the overall claim situation is and how much back pay we're talking about, that might be lawyer worthy, maybe. But if you got the brains to do that yourself, you could do that as well. But the safest bet would be it's a new claim, especially if you have a new diagnosis, right? If you didn't have one then, but now you do, there you go. Yeah, Raider HQ wants me to rant. Yeah, yeah, man. That the private DBQ thing is going to, because there are good actors out there. There are Nexus letter DBQ companies that are good, and some are better than others. There are small mom and pop shops like Dr. Sharma is a one-man team. He's legit. He is. I vouch for his moral character and his, I guess you would say, his dignity or his he cares, right? He believes in what he writes, would be a better way to say. American Medical Experts, larger, okay? I still think they're legit. I don't think they are, if I thought they were defrauding veterans, I wouldn't be a partner with them. So there are small shops, large shops that I think are good actors in the space. But this absolutely paints a black eye on all of them. Large, small, medium, new, old, doesn't matter. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. It would be interesting to see who's copy pasting, though. That would be Pretty cool. Okay, J-Dog. If I have an intent to file open and I want to appeal a decision that was already made, will that use up my intent to file? Thank you for everything you do. Okay. If you're, there's two answers here. I guess the three answers. If your appeal is within 1 year, the answer is no. Okay. However, is it common for the VA to burn that ITF? It absolutely is. Is it common to have incorrect effective dates as a result because you have a new ITF? It absolutely is. It happens all the time. Okay. HLRs for effective dates happen all the time. Now, there's a lot of daters in there, but that's another topic for another video when you're in the hands of the reviewer, because they can just pop, anyways. So within 1 year, it shouldn't. Probably will. You have to be on top of it. It's a pain in the butt. If you're after 1 year and you've already passed that window, you're going to use your intent to file for the appeal, right? So whatever claims you're submitting out, you need to do it all. Boom, one shot. You got one opportunity. It's an Eminem reference. Okay. Slow to respond 862. I love your name. Just want to support these questions being answered for others today. Always appreciate it for our community. Also have a CMP exam in 5 days for thigh pain. Wish me luck. Wishing you all the luck. Pain is compensable. All right? Pain is compensable. I would feel better for you. I would feel giving you better luck if you had like a chronic diagnosis out of that. But pain is compensable. I wonder if you have like because you have thigh pain, maybe you have like some femoral nerve damage that's direct. Maybe have some secondary nerve damage from your sciatica, but I don't know if that would, like, I don't get thigh pain from that, but it could be different for other people. But it sounds like a femoral issue, maybe a bone issue, like in your femur. I don't know, but I would feel better for you given a chronic diagnosis, but pain is compensable. So, back pain, that's you can be rated on pain. So, and pain is subjective. That's kind of where the seesaw comes into play. Teeter-totter. All right, Clay, I got my decision letter yesterday, and they opened up an IU claim in system, not if good or bad, but filled out the 2 forms submitted. Yet, they haven't told me yet. Did I jump the gun? No, you're fine. If you want IU, that's a good sign. When the VA prompts you to do something, it's generally a good sign. So, for instance, this is a prime example here. Generally a good sign. Sometimes you'll get decision letters and the VA will say, I'm going to paraphrase it, hey, you should submit for this claim. Those are good signs. Okay. Generally speaking. All right. I'm seeing 90. Hold on. I got like 50. My phone just went off. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I'm seeing 99% of the fraud coming from the system, not from veterans. Yeah, I think not just veterans, but everyone is throwing the word fraud around way too loosely. I think the Washington Post threw it around too much. I think Lisa Ryan threw it around too much. If you know, you know. We'll just leave it at that because I don't, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I think Daniel Gay throws around the word fraud too much. I think we throw around the word fraud too much. And so, that fraud video, the amount of comments that says Trump is committing fraud, or, Don Jr. is committing fraud, or J.D. Vance is committing fraud. On the fraud video that I did, Congress is committing fraud. The VA is committing fraud. The CMP examiners are committing fraud. I'm like, well, that's like fraud is a thing. We can define it. And so does the VA always do right by the veteran? No, they do not. Okay. Does the process work? The answer is yes. Let me see if I can find this really quick. I will explain to you why I said yes, because I know that's gonna ruffle up some feathers here. Yeah, see, I had to Google. I am no what am I doing? What am I doing? I will show you why the process works, okay? This is the annual benefit report. Here's compensation. Here's this ginormous file here. All right, there's a table of contents. Let me just find it real quick. There's DIC numbers. Body system. Disabilities. I think it's this one. How many are at 100%? Oh, by sex. Number of service-connected disabilities of all compensation recipients at 100%. No, that's not it. That's not it. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it because now I'm already here. Gosh, why did I do this to myself? I look like an idiot right now. That's new recipients. Top 10 all time. GWAT. Most prevalent. DIC. Oh my gosh. How many times is 100 pop up? Oh, too many. See, now I really look like a big idiot. Basically, 25% of all veterans who are rated are at 100%. I just can't find where that's at. So what is it? 1.6 million. Let me see if I can Control F. Oh, there's your payments. This is good enough. Okay, I'm going to quit. I look like an idiot. About 25% of all veterans are rated at 100%. So the process does work. I did a whole video on that. And for some reason, I'm looking like a big dummy because I can't find it off the cusp. That's going to bother me all night. Okay, anyways, whatever. I will accept that I'm a dummy. Okay, I honestly don't know how to discuss that VA change because it's drowning in fear. Yeah, the best way to do it, I think, is do it in buckets. You know, hey, there's a group of people I'm talking to specifically, and you do it that way. Attorneys are going to be very busy this year. Yeah, at the same time, I guess it depends on how the VA OIG investigates the fraud. And if a veteran is on the hook, you know, what does that look like prosecution-wise? Do they prosecute the veteran even though the veteran didn't have intention of defrauding the federal government? I'm no lawyer, but I think I understand. I totally forgot to do something today. I think I understand, to do a crime, there has to be intentionality of it. That part I kind of get. And so obviously this is way over my head, but I think that's going to be a big factor is who is going to be on the hook. Is it one, both, or all three? Claim company, provider, veteran. Okay, let's see if that works. All right, I was denied for Cop D even though I'm PACT Act eligible. Why? Bigger question is how do I appeal via apply? Okay, so the PACT Act is massive. Okay, and I'm stealing this. Raider HQ, if you're in here, I'm stealing this answer. Thank you. Kellyan linked it down below for me. It's okay. I've already crossed that bridge. The PACT Act is huge. Okay. And so what kind of PACT Act eligible are you? Are you Vietnam era for presumptive of Agent Orange? Because that is way different than post 9/11. Gulf War. Are you peacetime and we're looking at exposure? Because terror is a part of PACT Act. Okay. Not presumptive. Are you Gulf War? And you do fall into presumption. Because if that's the case, I'm going to assume you're Gulf War. You're denied because you don't have a current chronic diagnosis. Right? Has to be. If you are a Gulf War veteran, and when I say Gulf War, I don't mean like, I served from 03 to 06. I'm talking like you were in the time location. You were in Iraq. You were in Turkey in the 90s, whatever. Those things. So I'm just curious as to what you mean by PACT Act. What era do you fall in? Depending on what era you fall in, it will determine what is presumptive and what is not. Why would you refuse to go to the CMP exam? That seems self-sabotaging. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not trying to throw shade at anyone else. I just know there's another creator who pushes not going to your exam. And I 100% disagree with him. Them. Could be a lady, who knows. All the time. Like 10 out of 10 times, I'm disagreeing with them. There's not a single time where a veteran submits a private DBQ and a private Nexus, and the smart thing to do is to not go to your exam. And I don't care the credentials of the person who's saying it. I'm telling you, some people just need to take the loss and change their mind, okay? Because that's a loss. That's a big loss. And they've been saying that for a long time. Not even just recently. Recently, they have said it, but they've been saying it for a long time, right? And that's definitely not working post 2024 OIG report. I can tell you, I can bet my life on that. Anyways. Go to your exams. And if you don't, when you get pinged by the VA OIG, I want you to remember this moment. So if all your DBQs were done by examiner, you're good. You're in the good bucket. Okay? You're in the good bucket. You're good. The Man Cave YouTube channel. I'm going to look you up, by the way. The Man Cave YouTube channel. Are you a recent? Oh, you haven't posted in 5 years. What are you doing? What are you doing? Get back on it, man. What are you doing? No, I see your Final Fantasy VII stuff. That's pretty cool. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Oh, and I got your tactics. So these tactics, yes, these are that's tactics. All right. Oh, I don't know why I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry. Hey, you know what? Just in case this guy chooses to redo his channel, and if you like this stuff, go say hi. What's up? How's it going? Grad Super Dad, big day tomorrow. Yes, Lord of the Rings. That reminds me, I should probably head out. It's been over an hour. Lord of the Rings birthday party. All right. The Two Towers. I don't really have anyone to share it with, right? Because I'm a big nerd. There's not many Lord of the Rings hardcore nerds out there. I'm probably gonna make a short that has nothing to do with veterans at all, and I hope you watch it, okay? Because it's gonna be totally off topic from the channel, and we'll just see how it goes. Anyways, thank you very much for those of you who are a member. I appreciate you. If you're not a member, you should do better. I'm joking, obviously. Every view, every question asked, every like counts. Join our Discord. You don't have to be a member. Join the Discord. All right. Anyways, that's all I got. Peace.